guys, welcome to the first episode of Briefpod. On this podcast, we interview entrepreneurs, startup founders, trying to delve into their minds to know why they are building, what they are building, the sort of impact they are trying to make, and what their drive is. And today, I have with me Vandros. Vandros is a startup entrepreneur. He's looking forward to, bring a lot of value to young talents in Africa. I don't want to go into too much of the details. He's gonna have the opportunity to actually walk us through what he's trying to build on the continent of Africa. And yeah, we'll just get right into the conversation. So Vandros, it's been a pleasure having you here.
Absolutely.
We've met a couple of times in different events, different places, and today we are seated in a crib somewhere in Ibri, in the outskirts of Ibri. I mean, you can see the background here. Views. So Vandros, can you tell us a little about yourself and why you are here in Africa? Because you are Nigerian, but then you're not born on the continent. And then maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think you can walk us through your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I was born in Benin City, but then I moved to the States when I was 4. And then from there, I stayed in the States until I was about 19. And then from there, I joined the U.S. Army, which is a completely crazy life, and experience that I had. And then also I did a tour in Afghanistan. So I was in Operation Enduring Freedom.
Oh, wow.
And so I was there for 9 months, completely life-changing.
Yeah.
And then after that, I eventually got out of the military. I actually made sergeant in 2.5 years, which is like the 5th rank out of like 23 ranks, just to simplify it for people who don't understand. And usually it takes about 5 to 6 years to achieve that, and I did it in 2.5, which is pretty big of an accomplishment. Yeah. And then I eventually got out, and then eventually I was in Germany. So I ended up studying while I was in Germany. I was also doing some personal training, and I was also playing some professional basketball too as well. So I was doing multiple things. And then eventually I got out of the uni, and then I was working some managerial roles, and then eventually I dropped those once I got into, so what ended up happening was I got into stocks. So actually I'll never go to like my school lectures at all, because it just didn't make sense. For me, it was pointless. I felt like it wasn't gonna get me ahead. I actually didn't believe in school. I still actually don't really believe in school, unless you're doing something that's like doctor, or you're doing something that's actually, you need like an actual certificate. But I think majority of stuff you can kind of learn online now. And so I would just get the information that I needed for the entire semester. And I would see, okay, what is it that I need to study? I would go to Khan Academy. And then I would just learn from Khan Academy, different YouTubers and etc. And I was reading books on stocks, on, how to beat the system and etc. I was also learning about like different power dynamics. The 48 Laws of Power is another book that I read too as well. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, 4 Hour Work Week. I read multiple different books, just reading like crazy, instead of going to school lectures. And actually, I would go to the exams, and I would get a better grade than most of the people that would actually be in the actual lectures. And they would think like, some kind of crazy genius. Like, no, I just figured out a more efficient way to learn while you're waiting on somebody to come teach you. You teach yourself. Maybe you just someone gives you the information, but you can go find it yourself now. It's 2025. Well, by that time it was 2017, 2018, but the point still remains the same. We're in the age of information, right? And we have an overabundance of information. It's about who can critically think and who can't. And that's basically what separates the ones who win versus the ones who lose. And so eventually I learned the stock game. I was big into investing into ETFs, and then eventually I liquidated all my ETFs, went into Tesla.
Why?
Because I saw that the government was subsidizing green energy initiatives.
Electric cars.
Yeah, exactly. Electric cars and etc. So in my head, it just made sense to put everything into the market leader, which was Tesla, and that was when the government seemed to be backing. So I was like, this is an obvious play in my head at the time. But everybody thought I was crazy, but then it ended up working out really, really well for me. And obviously you don't invest in actual companies, you invest in people. Right. So you obviously was looking at Elon Musk and his track record and the things that he's done. And so I felt like that, why would I bet against someone like that?
Interestingly, like just 2 days ago, or even yesterday, Tesla stock is like crazy up.
You see what I'm saying?
It's crazy.
You see what I'm saying? You just don't bet against the winners is what I learned. And so eventually I ended up, my stock brokerage account ended up putting this thing called Bitcoin on my app. And I was like, I've heard of this thing before. It's come up a few times, but I didn't know what it was. Like, is it a startup? Is there like a CEO? Like, what is this? Yeah. So obviously I went straight to Google because all the information is online, and what is Bitcoin? And it was talking about decentralization and decentralized money. And I was like, what is decentralization? So I started like looking up what centralization is. There's decentralization. And I learned that after a couple of weeks. Then I was like, well, then what is money? And then so I started going down the rabbit hole of learning. Exactly. I was trying to understand what is money. So I had to go all the way to when we were bartering, to then precious metal trading, to then gold, and then to backing fiat to the gold, and then removing the gold from the fiat to where it was just printing money. And that's where we are today, where they're just literally printing money to pay back old money that they borrowed. And so through that journey, I ended up, the light bulb went off. I was like, oh my God, this is a startup that is basically a competitor to money itself. And no one knows who the owner of this thing is because it's decentralized. And so it just blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is obvious. So for me, it was like, this is an obvious winner. So I liquidated all my Tesla.
Into Bitcoin.
Into Bitcoin. This is back in late 2020. Because once I understand something, I go full deep ahead. Even with this place, I knew exactly, as soon as I saw it, I knew I wanted it, and I just went. That's
so
how
you would say that you have like insane bias to action.
Yes.
You just don't wait.
No, I don't wait. For me, it's urgent. Once you've solved it, then immediate action should follow. You shouldn't be pondering on it. And I think those are serious men. I think serious men are the ones that take immediate action. And move with a sense of purpose and urgency. Because if you're not, then for me, how can you expect other people to take you serious? So eventually through that, I started making money. I started learning about DeFi, decentralized decentralized finance, decentralized applications. Started getting into like Ethereum, learning about DEXs, decentralized exchanges and so on, and how to yield farm and mine.
And all of this, you're doing that self-taught. It's not like you took your course, you went to school.
Exactly. I didn't go to school. I just literally was learning. I would join online communities. I had mentors. I had great mentors. That's another thing I recommend for people to do is get a mentor. Because if you don't have a mentor, then it's going to be very hard for you to not make the same mistakes that the mentor had to go through. That's the point of having the mentor, is to make sure that you alleviate the mistakes he's made, so that you can skip the steps to get to where he's at quicker. Right? And people look down on mentorship or people who do mentorship programs, but I actually think it's needed. The only reason I haven't paid for any is because I was always lucky enough to, every time I wanted to get somewhere, I always had access to a mentor. So the mentor is the one that helped me, learn about farming, staking, yield farming, mining, liquidity mining. So I learned all of these things and how to make money with crypto, then also airdrops, NFTs. I was learning everything. And I was also in these online communities asking a bunch of questions. And, the best way for you to learn quicker also too as well is to surround yourself with like-minded people. And now we can do that digitally through communities, digital communities and groups, online groups, chats, and etc. Reddit, you have Telegram, you have even WhatsApp. You can create group chats of like 10, 20, 100, 500, 1,000, 2,000 people. They're all trying to do the same thing. And so again, it streamlines that process and makes it quicker and more efficient for you to win. And so, so I was winning with that. Then I started telling people like, yo, I'm making money off of this, Then other people were like, yo, let me hop on.
How do you feel like the first time you probably made money from Bitcoin or anything? Like, how did it feel for you?
It felt like everything that I was told was a lie about how to earn money, how to make money. Then I realized that you can make money without having to trade your time, your labor, your energy for it.
In that case, like, how is the money generated? Like, for instance, you say that for traditional banks, they will just print money, they just print paper, but then like with blockchain technology and all of that, like, how is the money generated?
It was different ways, right? So one thing that people do, for instance, is they'll have initiatives where you'll have a liquidity pool, let's say for a decentralized exchange, right? And in this liquidity pool, people can put their capital in so that people can trade the two different assets that they want to trade, because you need liquidity to be able to trade them.
Okay.
And every time a trade gets initiated, then you would get a percentage from that trade. So you're having more of a shared revenue model, right?
Okay.
As opposed to in case of the current banking infrastructure, the banks just takes that takes all the money. So that's the differences and nuances between it. So that's one way. And there's different funding that they get, and they use that funding to create these initiatives so that people can get into their ecosystem. And they have mining initiatives, liquidity mining initiatives. You just have to pay attention for that, because then that's basically you, for showing proof of participation, you would be able to get rewarded in said token, which has a certain USDT value. Right. So that's certain ways in which you build it.
I mean, like, what you're explaining is quite technical. I mean, you'd admit. In this case, it's like, one of the questions that I've always had with regards to, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, all of that is, how scalable is it? Especially for, in a generation, or let's say Ghana, for example, where you have a lot of people. Most of our businesses in Ghana here are very traditional. They are not formal at all. They don't have like registrations or anything. It's just a fraction of businesses that have been registered with the government, right? But majority of the businesses, like, if you go through town, that woman is selling by the roadside bread or something. They are not going to formalize that particular thing. The best they could use, the best form of like technology they could use probably is mobile money or something like that. Now the question that I have is, when it comes to cryptocurrency, blockchain, stuff like that, how scalable is it? Is it something? Is it inclusive enough, especially for everyone, whether or because of the fact that there is like a higher learning curve, or there is a steep learning curve? A lot of people can't adopt such technologies. Like, what do you say about that?
So I would say yes, education is important, but also too as well, there's people solving that problem by creating apps where you don't even notice that you're using cryptocurrency. For instance, I have a friend that he's built a intercontinental cross-border payment solution here on the continent, and effectively he's using blockchain technology in the back end, but you don't know. So let's say you go to South Africa and they have the rand there, and say for instance you need to like swap your cities into rands, and you're like, man, I can't really do that, I need to bring dollars usually. He's created a system and a mechanism where you can have your cities in the app and you can swap it directly into rand. But actually what's happening in the back end is, what you don't see is, the cities is getting swapped into USDT, and the USDT is getting swapped into the rand.
To USDT and then back to
exactly, and it's happening instantaneously. But so he's been able to solve that problem. He's actually looking for funding. C-Pain, if you're gonna give him a quick shout out. So if anyone is interested in participating in the angel round, etc. So that's the nuanced solutions in which people can get onboarded way quicker, right? It's not going to be you actually understanding how the blockchain works. You actually going through the blockchain explorer. That's for more people that are a little bit more technical, that understand those things. Also with Bitcoin itself, the layer one is not scalable, to be completely honest. If there's too many people using the network, it does get the fees decreases, because they're all competing for the same block space to be able to get their transaction verified for that next wave or that next block. And so what people have created for solutions is payment layers, like if you see the Lightning Network. So that allows you to be able to take some collateral up into the layer two, and then me and you can transact quick, fast, and then the transaction will get closed on layer one, essentially. So it will get settled on the security layer, so that way you can at least transact faster, quicker, which makes it scalable. You do have a little bit of, you're losing, there's a trade-off because you lose a little bit of the security, but at the same time, you do get the quickness. So the thing is with blockchain technology, there's going to be trade-offs, but what I would say is, I like it as an alternative, especially because if you see what's happening with people getting demonetized, deplatformed, censored, and losing their bank accounts, etc. This is becoming more prevalent of a thing. If you follow some of the guys that's happened to, so they need alternative ways in which they can receive money. And the blockchain offers that solution, especially if you're looking at intercontinental cross-border payments, like from Africa to the States or to UK and etc. Sometimes you have issues with too much money and too much siphoning from the fees from these platforms that get greedy. Western Union and so on. And so blockchain serves as another alternative for you to get quick, fast value from one location to another instantaneously almost. So yeah,
that's interesting. What do you think people get wrong about blockchain technology? I think that because it's sort of like a new space, especially for people who are not really technical, it can become like a hard nut to crack, right? Especially if I'm not a technical person, it will be difficult for me to understand. How, first of all, before I come to that question, how would you explain blockchain technology to, say, a lame person, somebody who has no idea about, blockchain technology? How would you explain that to the person? And then also, what is like a misconception that people have about blockchain technology?
I think let me answer the second question first. One of the misconceptions is that people think that it's a scam. And as you probably know, the government, they'll tell you anything is a scam just so that they can have you stay in the system. I think the first thing I would tell anyone is to get as much education as possible to understand what this system actually is, because a lot of people don't understand how the system works. They understand that maybe there's inflation, but they don't actually understand what inflation is. They don't understand why inflation has to go on. They don't understand who's controlling the global dynamics when it comes to the financial infrastructure. What the global reserve currency is, how that came to be. And also understanding the angle of what were your people doing during that time when that happened, right? All these things, these contexts are very, very important, because then it would help you understand how the system actually functions. And this is actually solving a big problem, and it's creating a new inclusive, transparent system that's open, right? So you're basically recording every single transaction on an open ledger, but it's happening in a decentralized fashion where everybody has ownership stake in it. And once those transactions get recorded, everyone can see them.
See what's going on.
The only difference is that you don't know that it's me and I don't know that it's you. It's like 7855 transacted to 75, you know what I mean? So it's had these huge public addresses. So you can see your public address, but you don't have to showcase out that publicly to let people know that that is your public address. If that makes sense.
I get it.
So it's good because if you're doing business and these types of things, it's good because let's say, for instance, if I got investment, now if I did investment and did all my purchase through an open source ledger, it would allow the people who have invested in my product to be able to see where the money is going, right? So that way we don't need to talk, right? And I think that's the beauty of it is, again, technology is the same thing as Uber, right? Technology allows you to not have to speak if you don't want to speak, because a lot of times when you go to different foreign countries, you have issues of people trying to scam you with taxis. That's why Uber came with that solution. It was like, hey, let's put technology there so you don't have to talk, and everything is standard, everything is transparent, and nothing can change. This is the price, and the price can't change, and there's no way that you can try to extort me or do some kind of corruptive behavior. And that's the entire idea of the blockchain, is to create an open source ledger so that everybody can see the records on the blockchain, right? On the Explorer. So when I send money to you, we don't need to talk. Just I send you the transaction hash. You can check it on the blockchain Explorer, and then you know that the money was received to that address that you told me to send it to.
That's great. Hey, so with all the understanding that you have about decentralized finance, blockchain technology, and all of that, and you go on to start Moonboy Capital Ventures, right? Why Moonboy Capital Ventures?
So it all started actually organically, because at first I was just trying to help people make money, and then eventually it was getting overwhelming because I was still working as a manager in Germany. And then eventually it was getting overwhelming to the point where I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to start charging. So I started charging people, and people were okay because they were making more money than what I was charging. And then eventually what I ended up doing was, because it got overwhelming, I took time off of work, and then I ended up building a online course to teach people about all the different elements of crypto: how to stake, yield, farm, mine, liquidity mine, all of that. And it was really, really successful for some time. And then eventually after that, I started trying to help people get into, fundraising and et cetera along that journey. And then also too, as well, another thing that I was doing was I was helping people who, for instance, like I started like a private wealth fund. So people who didn't want to invest, right? They were like, look, I don't know anything about investing, but I have money, but I want to spend them. You know what I mean? So I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, you have the money, but you don't have the knowledge. Let me bridge that gap for you. You give me the money, and then I'll be able to invest for you, and then I'll take a percentage in the back end. So that worked really well. And then eventually from there is when, along that journey, along that path, I ended up building multiple different things, a podcast. I was a mentor at Stanford AI and Web Research Labs. And then too, as well, I got into, I built a B2B blockchain SaaS-based model for documentation and storage. And then eventually I got into, Helicode, which is when I started traveling back to Africa, and I just started seeing, I feel like Africa for me.
I don't want you to go there yet. We're going to get into that place. But, even on Mumbai Ventures, I want to ask you, like, what was probably like the hard nut to crack with you building, such a business? How are you dealing with businesses, investors? How are you helping them navigate the challenges of the blockchain space?
It's as simple as trying to make them feel comfortable and giving them the right knowledge that they need, and simplifying the knowledge too as well. Because a lot of people aren't familiar with this. They know that it can make money, but they're not familiar. So I was trying to figure out a way, how can I bridge the educational gap and simplify it for people who want to get into the emerging technological landscape, but don't understand how to invest, what to look for in investing, how to diagnose what's a scam, because there's a lot of scams in crypto. As you know, with any emerging asset class, even the internet boom that happened, there was a lot of scams. Pets.com.
I think that's why a lot of people didn't get into crypto at some point, because it looked like you had people who were heavily invested in always complaining about scams.
Yes.
But even me myself, like I was looking at the whole thing, I was like, and then there was NFTs. I was gonna ask you about NFT. And then all those things came up, especially in the creative space, like NFTs was big. And it's like, today you hear that somebody has sold this $1 billion worth of art and all of that. And then the next time you're like, the value has just dropped to zero. Like, I mean, the whole scummy thing was like, it was a thing. So I'm just like wondering, is it because you sort of like understood it fundamentally, that's why you kept on going? Or it was like, because you were seeing results. Let's put it that way.
I would say both. Again, because I had a mentor. Someone that had been in, I had other people that had been in the blockchain space for some time, like maybe a cycle before me. For instance, let's say in 2017, and I got in 2020, or they were even a cycle before then. So I would just ask questions like crazy, so I could avoid getting scammed. Hey, what happened here? Like, for instance, one of the ways in which people lose in the crypto space is they don't secure their assets properly. So what I mean by that is, if you secure your assets on a software wallet, like a MetaMask, or maybe you've heard of some of these wallets that you put your crypto inside, those are software wallets, so they can be drained, because there's a lot of things you need to look into. Like, for instance, MetaMask, you can give a decentralized exchange permissions, for instance, and you maybe forget to revoke those permissions. So somebody could eventually go back into that decentralized exchange and figure out a back door to get access into your wallet. One way in which you can make sure that doesn't happen is you get a two-factor authentication or a hardware wallet, right? And through the hardware wallet, that means that no one can move money out of your money, right, of your wallet or etc., unless they have the two-factor authentication. So they have to have the hardware wallet. They have to have the physical device with them. So only you will have it, right? So that's a way in which you can make sure that you keep
it. It reminds me of the guy, he just recently gave up. He had Bitcoin on, I think he had it like a pen drive. And he lost it.
You see.
And I think now, I mean, the money has basically increased. The investment has increased, but then he doesn't have access to the pen drive, so he can't access the money.
Exactly.
And then recently he just gave up searching for it.
Yes. So the drive itself is not what's going to give you access to your money. So what actually gives access to your money is actually the seed phrase. So you have this 12 to 24 characters seed phrase, like let's say pizza, horse, grass. It's like 12 to 24 words that only you know. And as long as, because your device could break down, you could lose actually the pin drop. As long as you have your seed phrase, you're fine.
Okay.
Because you can then just get a new device and you can type that seed phrase in. The seed phrase is what gives you access to your funds that are on the blockchain. They're actually stored on the blockchain. So they're not on the actual drive itself. So all those things are just enablers to get access to the blockchain. The wallet itself is an interface that gives you an ability to maneuver within the blockchain. That makes sense. But it's not something that you necessarily need. You know, if you're more technical, you can actually look at the actual blockchain on the back end, which is actually not so pretty and sexy and attractive. So the wallet acts as a UI, you know, to give you a little bit of a better navigational experience. And so that's another thing that people don't understand. So the main thing is to keep your seed phrase. If you lose your seed phrase, you're done.
That's it.
Yeah, you're done, because there's no email and you can call somebody from the bank, the customer service. So that's where the issue comes into place a lot of times.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How do you deal with like all these rise and falls? Like today you're here, Bitcoin rose to this, and then the next time it's down. Like, how do you deal with such a thing?
Yeah. So for me, because I've studied liquidity cycles, and I understand quantitative easing, quantitative tightening, and I fully understand liquidity cycles, I know that I play the long game. So I don't trade, right? There's difference between trading and investing. So traders are short term, like every day, every other day, maybe every week, they do a swing trade. I don't do that because that's too stressful for me, and I don't have the time to sit there and watch the charts. I play the super long game. I put my money in, and I wait 3-4 years playing the long-term liquidity cycles. So, for instance, when Bitcoin dropped to 15K, I was telling everybody, now's the time to get in. Now's the time to get in. Everybody was like, no, it's going to zero. It's done. It's finished. And I was like, no, they're just manipulating the market. And then they're pushing out all these bad news to fearmonger you. Because you have to understand the actual game of the stock market, finance, crypto, all these things. It's basically to fearmonger you, right? So in that way, you know, people who actually, you know, have the money can get in before you, and then dump on you before you can figure it out. You know, so that's how the game actually works. So they want you to buy at the top and then, you know, sell at the bottom, whereas they're buying at the bottom and they're selling at the top. And so once you understand that, and you also understand that the interest rates, you have to follow this, right? Because it's very important that you understand the Federal Reserve when they make these announcements of, hey, we're going to be increasing the interest rates, which is what they've done in the past. And now they're starting to like revert back to decreasing the interest rates. So when they increase the interest rates, that means that debt is more expensive to borrow, which means there's less liquidity in the market as a whole, because the US is the global reserve currency and they control the entire markets. So you have to pay attention to what the US is doing. So when they drop the interest rates, then you know, okay, we're going into a bull market cycle, because it means that it's going to be more cheap to borrow. And why that's important is not for you as a individual. It's more important for the big corporations, the ones that can get a whole bunch of cheap debt, and then they can start expanding. So that means there's going to be more people getting hired, because now let's say it's at 2% for the interest rates that they can borrow, or 1%, 2%, whatever that rate is. That's minute. They can use that to their advantage to borrow a huge amount to expand their business, which gives people more opportunities for work, which means that they have more spending power, which means that there's more money and liquidity flowing within the economy, right? And then vice versa, when they increase the interest rates, that means that companies are going to be less prone to want to borrow money, because say the interest rates are like 7%, 6%. It's eating too much into their profit margins. It wouldn't make sense for them to borrow at that rate. Too high. So they would rather wait till it goes back low, which means that now they need to cut expenses. And, you know, obviously the expenses are going to get cut. It's going to be labor, right? And so that's how you have these job layoffs, right? And this is how the economy's ebbs and flows. So for me, when I saw Bitcoin at 15K, and I understood that we were about to, the following year, enter into a quantitative easing cycle, meaning that they were going to start printing more money, because they had already gotten to that point where they the interest rates were already high. So the only option is to go back down, because you can't tighten the market forever, because then people get squeezed too much. Then you'll have chaos, riots, etc. Because, you know, people will just keep firing people, trying to consolidate labor, and etc. It doesn't work long term. So you can only do that for shorter periods of time. So when you understand these ebbs and flows, makes you know when to place your money. Like now, I'm not looking into getting into the crypto market. The market's already pumped. I'm waiting until the market goes back down, and then I'm waiting and then looking at the interest rates and then analyzing both of those things to see, okay, now is a good time to go back and reinvest. Maybe when Bitcoin's 60, 70, 80K and it's dropped, things are quiet, I'll hop back in the market, ride it up to 300, 400K, and then take profits and do it again. Yeah.
This is really interesting. I mean, everything you're saying, it kind of feels like to sort of understand this well, you have to be a very technical person. You have to be someone who probably likes to investigate and then read a lot into this particular space. And I think it goes back to what you said about having mentors to basically, open you up to some of these things so you don't have to make such mistakes. At this point, like I'm coming to, you've done a lot of things. So there is Mumbai Capital Ventures, which we've just spoken about. And then you started a podcast. Why?
So I started a podcast because for two reasons. I didn't see that there was enough Africans in the space.
Okay.
Right? So I felt like I had to be one of those to pioneer this Web3 AI space, to bring the knowledge, bring the information, just so at least to say like, hey, look, I've put out a whole bunch of information and look, I'm in the space, it's not something that you don't think that's too far-fetched that you can't get into.
Yeah.
And so that was part of the reason why I did it. And also another part of the reason why I did it, because the space is moving so fast. So in my head, I was like, I got to bring people, intelligent people on every week to learn from them.
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, I can't keep up with the news. We're in the exponential age.
Yeah.
So because we're in the exponential age, the information is moving so fast. There's a new technology dropping every single week now. Maybe every single day, For me, I see a new technology dropping every single week.
Yeah.
So I can't keep up. So I was like, I gotta every week sit down with some guys that are in the space, pick their minds, learn from them, humble myself, and grow in knowledge, and also use that as a networking vehicle as well, because that's another way in which you can network, which is again what we ended up doing was tapping back into those networks when we needed that for Helicode, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the reason I decided to strategically drop the podcast, was for those reasons. Networking, grow in knowledge, and to also showcase to other Africans like, hey, look, you can get into the space too.
Yeah.
It's open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think that if there's anything about Africa kind of lack, or it's sort of like a major problem, it has to do with education.
Yeah.
Right. I think that thank God for the internet, because then now you can see what's going on in the West.
Yeah.
You can see what's going on in all these developed countries and economies, where you can pick a thing or two. Via social media and all that. So I think if you have like a dedicated podcast specifically to like blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, all of that, and then your primary audience are Africans, I think it's a good thing. Now, this is a case that you're doing all of this in the US and then you decide to come down to your mother continent.
No, actually, so I left the US a very long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of knew that.
When did you leave the US?
So the first thing I did was I joined the army, but in contingent on that I could travel and go to like Germany as my duty station.
Yeah.
And from after I got out of the army, I then just went back to Germany and then was traveling around Europe. And I never went back to the US at all. And the reason for that too is because I saw that there was a shift happening. I saw the US was starting to decline, but I saw it super early. And now you see all this like digital nomads movement, passport bros movement.
Yeah.
The reason this is happening because a lot of people are starting to wake up to the fact that, the prices, they're right now, they won't call it, but I like to call things before they happen, as me leaving the US early. They're entering hyperinflation, right? So because what's happening is you have, so the debt that they need to pay back, the amount keeps increasing, right? The principal itself. And the economic productivity is decreasing alongside the population growth is decreasing. So they're having an aging population. So, and AI too is taking some jobs slowly, but surely, and then eventually is going to accelerate. And so they're not able to get enough tax dollars to then subsidize the debt. And then they have to print money to pay back the old money.
They keep raising the debt limit.
Exactly. So because of this cycle, as this increases, it puts pressure on the end consumer, right? And so I knew that this was all gonna happen. You know, I even did a podcast called The Great Squeeze, and everything that's in the podcast, it's all happening now. And I was trying to prepare people for that, and that's part of the reason strategically why I decided to reposition myself in Africa. There's a lot of reasons why I decided to do that, but that's one of them. Is because I understand that Africa is the next wave of growth, and even if you ask ChatGPT, like which continent will give you the best, investor returns in the next 10 years, this is Africa. I mean, but it's obvious. I don't need ChatGPT to tell me that. It was just when I came here, I just saw it. You see it. You see the youth. You see the natural resources once those get reclaimed, which is slowly starting to happen when they're starting to nationalize that, and then not feeding the West too as well.
Yeah.
And so. Which is again why a lot of Africans don't understand. That's why the West has their wealth, is because they're taking the wealth from here and then they're refining the products. When everyone knows in an actual sane world, the people who own those, what's on the ground at their location would be the ones refining products and selling to other people, right? But obviously, we're in a backwards world.
Okay, they refine it, then they sell it back to us.
Yeah, exactly. We're in a backwards world. Yeah. But again, that's due to a lot of reasons, which I don't want to get into right now.
Yeah.
But my point is, so I saw this decline happening in the States. And again, it's for those reasons that I'm mentioning about the fact that it's getting too expensive. So for instance, my brother has like a 1-bedroom apartment. He's paying, I think, like $2,500 for it per month,
That's a lot.
Right, exactly. And it's not even like in New York or in LA. No, it's in Arizona. So
that's crazy.
You see what I'm saying? So, and that's only going to increase, so people are going to get squeezed because inflation has to continue based off of the mechanisms of the monetary system that we have today. It has to continue. So until this whole system crashes. So me being aware of that, I realized I need to reposition myself, need to diversify and take advantage of the opportunities early, especially here on the continent.
Wow. So coming to Africa, you've already probably done like your background check. You know that there's like the new frontier. I mean, they say Africa is the new frontier. It's the last emerging market, right? And then you're seeing all these things. And then you go into Helicode.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why did you start the school? Why did you start building Helicode?
Yeah. So it was a plethora of different reasons. So when I came to the continent, so I've been to the continent before, but then I'd been to Rwanda, but then I hadn't been to Ghana. But when I came to Ghana, I just had this like spiritual kind of awakening. I just kind of knew what to do. Yeah, I won't get too much into it, but it was just one of those things where I just kind of, I felt like somebody was kind of guiding me. And a couple of things that I saw, right? One of them was the fact that in the global north, like I told you, they're facing hyperinflation, which again, they won't call it that until they call it later when it's already, but that's what's happening. So businesses need to outsource cost-effective labor. And then also we're in the emerging technological landscape, and Africa has the biggest youth population. Like the average African is 19, whereas the average European is like 42, right? So I saw these things. I was like, okay, how can I make a synergy between all these things, solve and make a multifaceted solution for this particular problem, right? Because obviously there's high youth unemployment here. And again, we're in the emerging technological landscape. So this is a way in which we could skill build, right, in the emerging technological landscape, and then export digitally that labor to the global north so that they can cut cost and build the digital products they want to build. And the Africans get the skill set plus the extended liquidity, right? So that was the entire idea. So then I ended up linking up with my guy Fian, and he's my co-founder on the project, and we ended up building this beast out. We ended up doing a lot of market research, asking people around, and before we even launched it, we asked other people, do they like this? What don't they like? What they do like? Because the best way to know if you're building a good product is to ask the market, right? The marketing is just people at the end of the day. So just talking to people. And then eventually, we registered the company, I think last year in July. And then 6 months later, after building, we launched in January. So of this year. And then we've just been hitting the ground running. We've done some pretty big partnerships with like Mest Africa, CoinSub. And the entire goal is to not only train you and equip you with emerging technological skills, but then also to link you with those companies for those opportunities, and then eventually get your your skill sets refined enough to where you can build your own products here on the ground.
Yeah.
Because you need the experience, you need the knowledge, the expertise. So we need to scale that mainly, and then bring that back onto the ground and solve your own problems. And so that way you don't have to rely on externals to solve those problems for you. Yeah.
That's interesting because I recently did a story about, like accelerator programs in Ghana.
Yeah.
And then I had a conversation with the country manager of ALX in Ghana. And I was trying to understand, considering myself, I'm also like an African talent coming up. What I would ask you is, what's your general overview of African talent? You've been training, you've been teaching, you've been linking some of them to, global opportunities. You've had conversations with people who are hiring and all that. What is your general overview about the talent pool in Africa?
I think it's slept on. And I think part of the issue is people don't know where to look to find the talent. So what we're trying to do is to consolidate the talent. The talent does exist across the continent, but it's about figuring out, pinpointing where that talent is. Because not only are we training talent, we're also finding talent, because we're building the biggest talent pool in the emerging technological landscape, right? Yeah. So it's not just Web3, we're also focused on AI. So we've launched like AI agents course, machine learning, data analytics, and then eventually we're going to get into robotics. So that's our next thing that we're trying to position Africa to be the market leaders in the emerging technological landscape. Yeah. And the talent is there. It's just about sourcing the talent, finding the talent. But what I would say is the best talent that we've found so far has come from Nigeria.
Why is it always Nigeria?
Yeah.
I have a friend, he's currently in Malta, and he was applying for like a company, and they told him, like one of the guys told him, was like, the best talents that we've had are from Nigeria. Like, if you're not Nigerian, they're not even going to consider you. Like, I mean, if let's say like if a company's hiring between a Nigerian and Ghanaian, they will choose a Nigerian over a Ghanaian. Yeah. And I didn't understand why. Like, what's it about Nigerians that like they always have to be like at the top, And you're also saying something like this.
Yes. So,
what's the differentiator? Like, what are we looking at here?
Okay, so what I've noticed, because even with my entire team, Pan-African, right? In my mindset is super Pan-African. I don't care as long as you're African to hire, right? But what I found was that anytime we would try to hire someone that wasn't Nigerian, it just didn't work. And I think part of the issue is, I think that Nigerians have a very strong work ethic. I think it maybe ties into family, and just how they're brought up. Yeah. Because the work ethic is just crazy, and also the level of taking initiative, the competency. Yeah. I just find it to be, top notch. This is why a lot of people from Microsoft hire Nigerians. Yeah. Yeah. So they're for sure the best talent pool in I wouldn't say just in Africa. I would say Nigerians are probably the best talent pool. They're probably top 3 in the world. Probably put only China and Japan over Nigerians, to be honest with you. If you objectively speaking, they're got to be top 3 at if you want to say top 5, we could stretch it to that, but top 3 for sure. And again, it's one of those things where we've tried to source talent globally, and again, and on the continent, what we always find out is that, everything always ends up going back to Nigerians. We try to give other people's opportunities, they end up not. And then, even when we look at some of the talent that we've been able to outsource, the Nigerians are always the ones that are usually the best qualified. Yeah. So I just think it's maybe the hunger or just the parenting. It's different. It's different. Yeah.
What do you think is broken about, African education systems?
I don't think it's just Africa, because I'm very unique in the sense that I've been able to study in the States, and I also went to uni partly in the States before I joined the military. Then I've also studied at uni in Germany, and then I've also built a edtech platform for Africa. Yeah. And trying to solve all the bottlenecks. And what I realize is education globally, I feel like is very faulty. It doesn't matter where you're at. Even when I was in my uni in Germany, I didn't learn anything. When I was there, I learned more from reading books from, again, people who have already done it. That was another issue I had when I was in school. In uni, I would get in trouble because on one of the lectures that we had, this guy was lecturing us. So I asked him, I'm like, hey, how many businesses have you built? Because I was in international business school, and he was like, none. He's like, I don't understand why the relevancy of that question. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're teaching us about how to build a business, but you've never done it. I think that's part of the problem in school is you learn from people who already have the experience. And I think the education system globally is lacking behind. And even when I was in uni in Germany, the marketing classes that we were taking, they weren't teaching us about TikTok, or they weren't teaching us about YouTube ads, content creation, how to set up a podcast, things that is actually what's needed, in today's market. You were learning about things that were prehistoric from like 10 years ago. And this was supposed to be one of the top international, it was a private institution that was paying for, right? And so what you'll end up learning to find out the more that you travel and the more you're able to compare and the more experiences that you have is that the school system is designed so that you're not able to get ahead. Like it's designed for you to just be like a worker and not a thinker because they need more workers than thinkers. And so I would say the best solution, like what we're doing at Helicode, is to build out your own edtech platform that teaches people on real life skills that they need. It doesn't have to be an edtech platform. It could be even you having your own training program, teach people on skills that people need, like plumbing or masonry, or farming, things that's actually needed, especially here on the continent. I think here they rely on 70% imports on food, which is insane. Right?
So here we have a lot of arable land.
The arable land is insane. I mean, you can just look and see there's arable land everywhere. And, people aren't being equipped with the skills, the knowledge.
Blow your mind. When you go to Italy today, you'd find a lot of Ghanaian farmers in Italy cultivating tomato. The reason being that if they do it here in Ghana, I mean, the government is not really supportive enough. So they wouldn't do it here. They would rather go to Italy and then do that. And then they will, convert these tomatoes to like tin tomatoes and then they will ship them back. Even in Ghana, we import some of our tomatoes from like Burkina Faso and Niger.
You see? It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It doesn't make any sense, right? But again, it ties into leadership at the end of the day. And I won't get into why the leadership is the way it is, but what I would say is your people are a direct reflection of your leadership. So the better the leadership, like for instance, when I'm in Rwanda, the leadership is quite good. So you see the people it's orderly, it's more civil, very minimal corruption, clean streets, good infrastructure. So
I was going to come to the infrastructure bit. Considering the fact that you're building like a digital school, online school, one of the things that I have always been thinking about is the fact that in Africa, one major thing we lack is infrastructure, right? If you take Ghana, for example, if you leave the capital cities of each region and then you just travel, say 30 to an hour, you would encounter a lot of rural areas, towns and stuff like that. And these towns are not equipped. Like you wouldn't go to a rural area and then you find like an ICT center in that place. In this case, how do children like that have access to, information or education like this, And I've just been thinking about it. Do you think we should probably put more focus on building infrastructure first, and then we can bring in the necessary education that we want to give, our populations or the children in these areas? What do you think about that generally?
Obviously, the thing is with infrastructure is who's going to put the money up to build it? It's got to be the governments, right? So it's something that's out of our control. It's not something that we can really fully take a grasp on and be like, okay, let's put, because it's very expensive to do that, right? So the government has to see it, take onus on the government to be like, hey, look, you guys need to be working on the infrastructure. But in the meantime, we work with what we got. One of the things that we want to do as well is to build hubs to solve this problem where we have different hubs in different countries around the continent. So where people can go in, if you don't have a laptop, you don't have internet, they can go in there,
have access to all of that.
Have access to all of that, right? And we wanted to make it fully self-sustaining too as well. So we do want to do that, but obviously we need to either one, get our revenue up, or two, get the funding that we need, right? to be able to facilitate that, because, we're tired of waiting on the government. I just don't believe in government, really. I think it's a scam. So that's kind of where we're at.
Another thing too is that, like in Africa, bro, our problems are a lot. In the case of, access to education, right? People, one of the things that even growing up, I kind of like noticed is the fact that access to education is quite expensive. People are not able to afford, parents are not able to afford for these types of education. Now, considering that yours is very specific in the sense that it gives you like the skills, the in-demand skills that will probably get you a job after you're done. How do you go about pricing? Making it affordable for people to, enroll in some of these courses.
Yeah. So when we started, we actually started with a freemium model to first get people into the basic courses, where we were talking a bit about how cryptocurrency came to be about, talking about financial literacy, all these things, because it ties into each other.
Yeah.
And then eventually we had the $10 for all purpose. Basically, you get everything, all full access to the course that you choose. And you also get access to the job placement. You also get access to a community too as well. And you also get access to refurbished courses. So as you know, the tech space is growing and changing every single month.
Yeah.
So even our instructors themselves, every single cohort, they're changing, tweaking some stuff that they had in the previous cohort to fit those changes. So you can get access to that refurbished course and be able to not miss on new details within that particular niche. Like, for instance, if you look at what AI agents, or if you're looking at, smart contract development, it's these spaces are constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to have people keep up with that change. So we started at $10. Now we're at $40. So we really think, like, look, if people can't afford $40, if they can't get it from their family members and et cetera, I mean, that's very, very tough. But we look at other people that are charging for courses like this in, other not really competitors, because they're actually more positioned in the global north. I mean, they're charging $500 to $1,000, $2,000 for these courses, and even when I look at, some of the people that are charging on the continent, even when I look at some of the private institutions here on the continent, they're like $500 a semester, or, $1,000 a semester.
Yeah.
So I'm like, $40 is not as much when you look at it in comparison to what other people are charging.
Yeah.
And again, we started at $10. And then, so now we've just incrementally increased the price. It's still on discount.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at currently right now.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What would you say? I mean, what would be your last words, your final words to, if let's say a talent sits in front of you, I'm a talent, and you're gonna give me an advice, what would that be?
If a talent would want to enter our academy, what I would tell them is to work very hard. Do not only rely on the academy, because you also need to be persevering and doing your own research and skill building on the side.
Yeah.
Because what we try to do is equip you with the tools to get you to a certain level, but then it's also on you. We also encourage to build in public.
Okay.
We think that's very important, especially in today's era. You need to create your own portfolio. You need to create your own form of branding for yourself.
Yeah.
So we very much encourage you to be building on social media.
Yeah.
And also showcasing the portfolios that we're equipping you with to build on your social media outlets. And that way, when you do come across opportunities, you're able to showcase what you've been doing on social media, be able to showcase a portfolio that you're able to build on Helicode as strategic leverage, so that you'd be able to separate yourself from the pack. And also our goal is to, again, we're shipping out cost-effective talent. So you need to understand that your advantage when you're selling, your unique selling point is that you can do it cheaper than someone in America can, right? Instead of paying that person $10,000, $12,000 a month, you'll do it for $3,000, $4,000 a month. And that should be your unique selling point. That's how you should be approaching this. I'm just saying, even when you look at job listings, because we also encourage you to look at job listings too, even though we have the job placement services, it's not guaranteed. And also it's only for the best students, because we want to protect our brand too as well. And so when you're looking at some of these job postings, you see that it's $10,000 a month, $12,000 a month. Just type to the HR representative, like, I'll do it for $3,000 a month, $3,000 a month, And so that's what we want to be encouraging our students, is to be able to start moving, thinking on their own, taking that skill set and leveraging it to not only rely on the global north for that opportunity, but also look on the ground and see, is the government doing initiatives?
Yeah.
You know, are they doing digital initiatives? Are they looking for expertise in this area?
Yeah.
Is there a problem that I see with the government that I have the skill set in order that I learned from Helicode that I can use and leverage to accomplish or to solve the problem that the government, you know, doesn't see?
Yeah.
And so those are the things that you should be looking for in terms of opportunities.
And you've done a lot of podcasts. You've sat on, quite a number of interviews. What is one thing that you wish that people would ask you that they don't?
Why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's one thing where, you know, people don't understand the motivation behind something.
Yeah.
Because to sit down on a podcast and do it again the next week, do it again the next week, and do it again for years, which is what I've done for a few years now, it takes a lot of gumption. It takes a lot of self-sacrifice to still want to get up, even though you're not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Just so you can put out information so other people can have it. Other people that I know that need it.
Yeah.
You know, there's people that have come up to me and reached out to me like, yo, I really appreciate this. You know, and I think that's what keeps me going. But just understanding that why behind it. You know, I think that more people, if they were curious enough to ask, you know, why do people do the things that they do? They'd get a better understanding of, you know, how people think, the driving motivational factors of those people. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So this is where you have any last words you want to give, or you're okay?
Sign up for helicode.xyz.
Yeah.
And so cohort 4 should be starting in October. So we really hope to see you guys there. If you're new into the Web3 or AI space, this is the launch pad for you. It's the first ever AI Web3 EdTech and talent outsourcing platform on the continent. So you don't want to miss this revolutionary movement and what we've been able to achieve so far. Join our team. Follow us on our socials, Helicode. You can check us out on Instagram. We're on X. We're also on LinkedIn. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I got.
All right, great. So this is where we bring the conversation to an end. And like I said, this is the very first episode of BriefPod, and my guest here was Vandross. And thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, to like, and then also check out Helicode. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.